I'd like to call to order the Chagrin Falls Board of Education regular meeting of August 21st, 2024. Ashley, please take the roll.
Mrs. Bendel.
Here.
Mrs. Floyd. Here. Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Dr. Sabo.
Here.
Dr. Schlepper.
Here.
Will you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I move to approve the minutes from our 8/7/24 meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ashley, no, second.
Mrs. Bendel.
Yes.
Mrs. Floyd.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yes.
Dr. Sabo.
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper.
Yes.
Whenever you're ready, Ashley.
Okay, so we have a few requirements to present items to the board and hold a public hearing if anybody wants to comment. I'll open it up at one point. And these are things that the dollar amounts have always been reported. We haven't done this way, and I just got we haven't done this way in the past. It's something that is a new, it's not a new requirement, but it's a new, I guess, interpretation of the law that they want it more formalized, they want it posted on the website. So after the meeting tonight or early tomorrow morning, this will all be posted. So anyway, alright. Might kick me out.
You log it
I know.
the best possible moment.
I know, it's good. I just didn't do this. Okay. So the first portion that I'm gonna talk about here tonight.
It stopped working? It was working. I tested it.
There we go.
Okay.
Is this first portion is gonna be the public hearing on IDEA Part B, and then I'm gonna talk about our other federal grants as well. So the public hearing portion is really required just for the IDEA Part B, but as my focus, we're trying to talk a little bit more about specific items each meeting. I'm going to kind of kill two birds with one stone here and make this my financial focus as well. So I decided to just kind of give an overview of all of our federal grants, not just IDEA B. To give you some perspective on the type of the amount that we're talking here, this compares our current federal allocation for the year, which is $453,000, to our general fund expenditures last year. So 453 sounds like a lot of money, and it sounds like, wow, the feds are really giving us a lot of money. And then when you actually compare it to what it really takes to educate our kids, I'd like to put that in perspective before I start talking about all of these dollars. I just want you to see, kind of get a visual of the percentage that we're talking about here. So this is a summary of where all of our federal money is allocated into the 5 different grants that we received. The allocation, this is our allocation as of today. When carryover happens, and then there are some other times during the year, sometimes occasionally our allocation will change as well. Definitely once the carryover happens, it'll change. This is what it is today. So it's not gonna change materially, but if you look at this in, say, November, December, and you pull a report or my appropriations and you look at my system and you're gonna say, actually, why did you tell me in August that you have $370,000 in IDEA Part B and now you have 374 or 380? That's why the feds change it on us. Actually, OD changed it. So as you can see, most of our federal grant money is in IDEA Part B, that's special education. This is a picture of all of the different grants. So each column here is a different grant. The first one obviously is the IDEA Part B, that's our special education. I tried to kind of color code these to give you an idea of, to try to keep it straight. So anything that has to do with instruction is blue. So there's different shades of blue there. We have instructional salaries, instructional purchase services, supplies and equipment. I'm going to show you a little bit more detail here in a minute. But just kind of wanted to show you in comparison to each other, not just in comparison to our general fund money, but in comparison to each other, IDEA B special education is by far our largest federal grant. So speaking specifically about IDEA Part B, these are the categories in the application when we send this down to ODE and it gets approved. We have to allocate the money into specific categories. This is where our money is allocated currently on our application that has gone down to ODE. So the $304,000 in salaries and wages, those are instructional salaries. That's our specialized support aides. So we're using that money to cover, not all of them, but some of our specialized support aides. Moving across that top row there, instructional supplies. So these are things for special education, special supplies that we would need, licenses for some software, workbooks, things like that that are specific to special education. Moving over to capital outlay, that's equipment. Instructional equipment such as, sometimes we buy iPads, things for students who need special equipment to help them learn, things to modify there's like language things on the iPad. I don't know how to, I need Jim Baker here to help me articulate it, but there are things that, special accommodations for our students when they need a piece of equipment, that we can use this money for that. We can also use it to outfit some of the resource rooms when we, move things around, or we need new equipment, we need a new room. We can outfit the resource rooms with this money. Moving down to the second row, that's professional development. So things like conferences, any kind of training for educators who deal with special education students. A lot of this money in particular is going toward Wilson training over the last couple of years, and any conferences that they would need. And then supplies as well. Those are all professional development supplies, books, logins, that type of thing. And then the last line, non-public use, is the St. Joan of Arc money. So St. Joan of Arc's money from the state comes through us. So they're using theirs for intervention specialists and speech and language pathologists. Okay. So moving on to, I get one to work, the other one's on. Okay. Moving on to, this is still IDEA Part B, but it's a separate part of the grant. This is for early special early childhood special education, so this is our preschool money. We only get $6,400. This is right now an instructional equipment, so any equipment that the preschool would need for our special education students. Moving on to Title I. So we have almost $42,000 in instruction and salaries and wages there. That is a teacher, it really only covers part of the teacher's salary clearly, but it's a teacher who does ELA intervention. So we're allowed to use it for that. We only get the $42,000, so we just put it toward that teacher's salary. Title II, the supporting effective instruction grant. So most of this grant it's all anything that we want for professional development. So any professional development that our educators partake in to improve instruction, the personalized learning network stuff, any conferences, these are allowable expenses. Personalized learning coaching, I think part of Jake Miller is going to be covered, part of his expenses are covered through this grant. on to Title IV. Student support and academic enrichment, the $9,300 is instructional purchase services, where we have it right now. Those are programs associated, this money can be used for things like anti-bullying, safe and healthy schools, that type of thing. So we have it all in instructional purchase services that we can use toward anti-bullying programs. And safe and healthy schools. The $662 that St. Joan of Arc has, they have theirs in supplies. So supporting those same types of things, they're gonna be purchasing supplies with it, but again, things like anti-bullying programs.
I was just gonna ask, are these programs pretty like stable from year to year?
That's
Or can
exactly what I was
something
gonna ask.
The
like this
program-
could change in a legislative session, or is
The
this-
program and the grant.
Well, do you apply for a grant, is it a grant you seek every year, or?
So these are federal grants, they're allocated to us. So we have a process that we go through every year, that requires it's called the One Plan. So Jen Bango does most of the work on that, so I'm gonna speak to it as much as I can, but it asks questions about needs and gaps and things like that. And then it's based on need, but not as, like, it's not, if Jen says, we really need something, they're getting this more money, it doesn't work that way. We're a small school and we're a wealthy school in their eyes. So if you looked at, this presentation in another school district, this would look a lot different. This $9,000 that we, get here, it'll vary from year to year. As far as the programming, that's really not, something we can
That's what we
speak
write to.
intelligently
So
to.
for with the One Plan, what you do every year is that you actually write to what you're going to use the funding for. So when Ashley and the money comes in and it says it's X amount of dollars, then what Jen does is she writes to the strategic plan. And she says, this is what these categories are, this is what this money can be applied to. Now I have to basically write to the state and say, this is how we're allocating the money, this is how it aligns to the work that we're doing in schools, and this is how we'll pay for the different programming. And that's when, on a different slide, when Ashley said, this is how we're funding JAKE. If you remember, JAKE is personalized learning, which is a service that we had a grant for that we no longer have a grant for. So it's in our strategic plan, it's how we're supporting staff. So when that comes up this year, and you're writing your One Plan, then we need to allocate for that within that what used to be a CCIP or a One Plan. So that's what she's saying when she says Jen allocates the program. So the programming can vary. And then sometimes there's mandates, right, where we're having to we can use sometimes some of this to fund those different things. But we have control to write to what our district needs within those frameworks, within each of those categories. And that's what Jen is really in charge of doing each year. And then Ashley and I signed off that everything meets the criteria.
Well, so then is the roughly $450 that we get through federal grants, as I think Lauren was saying, is that roughly the same amount we get every year, or is it up and down just depending on a whole bunch of factors?
Yes, with the caveat that over the last few years, no, this is the first year we're back to normal and don't have extra money.
Okay.
So if you recall, if I compared this to the last couple of years, you're gonna be like, why are we getting so little money? 'Cause, we had over $1 million in just ESSER. ESSER's gone now, just as, kind of ironic, just as the, kids are entering preschool and kindergarten who, were at home during that time, during some of those very formative years, with some of these increased needs, now the ESSER money goes away. But, yes, it's fairly consistent.
Okay.
But it's not exactly the same, and it will go up and down, and it's not always predictable. So it does make it sometimes hard, to plan things.
You shouldn't depend on these funds, you should write to the funds when you know what the grants amounts are. That would be the safest way to be every year.
Yeah, they don't give you the amounts until after we've done all that, so it's like kind of putting the cart before the horse, and it's just the way
What's your flexibility on spend down each year? So if we're not doing $9,337 in bystander intervention, money, does the grant have certain specifications that we can't move that money out of there, or can we use it for a different
They'll carry
program?
over with certain caveats depending on the grant. For certain percentages, like Title I, for example, I think we can use percentages offhand. But yeah, eventually if you don't spend it, you lose it.
And then semi-annual reporting or annual reporting, who does that?
So we report whenever we're asking for cash, so we spend it, and then we request the money. So, I mean, theoretically, I could do it every day. I don't. Especially when we're talking, you know, $9,000, it's not a cash flow issue for me to hurry up and get that out and get that $9,000 in. And this is spent over the course of the entire year. So, and then there is a final expenditure report that we're required to do.
Yeah,
Just on the expenditure reporting is.
is that like you have to detail like programmatically everything that you had to do and that you hit these like certain deliverables, or is it not as detailed
So,
as that?
depending on the grant, some of them request, my portion of it really is just giving the dollar amounts and here's what we spend it on. But then there are questions throughout the year, and they call them surveys. There's a desk review, there's a on-site review, which they don't come on site for. And then, so it just depends on which one's selected. And so we're a sub-recipient of the state. So it depends on what's happening at the state level and how many districts they need and how much of their total allocation they need to cover to get reviewed. So audits, you know, ours is audited through our financial audit because we have had over the last few years over $500,000. If you spend more than $500,000 in a year, you get what's called a federal single audit. And then they select a program based on the dollar amounts and controls. They'll assess our controls every so many years. They have to cover specific grants. So every one is different. It's not like I can just, it's federal stuff.
And I assume spend down isn't a huge issue because this is probably significantly less than we spend in this area in most of these. Okay.
Yeah, all of these are supplemental amounts, you know, these are not things that
They would be relying on.
yeah. Like all of the salary items are, you know, those aren't covering complete salaries.
Okay.
Title I, for example, $41,000 doesn't cover all.
Okay, great.
So now is the portion of the meeting where I am gonna open it up to public comment, and this is part of our compliance, and when they do a desk review, if they select IDB, this will be one of the things they look for, evidence that we did this, so. Any comments on how we plan to spend our IDB money? Any board comments? Okay. So the next item, this is also just a compliance item. This one is just public notice, it's not a hearing, I don't need input, but we do have to report at a board meeting how we plan to spend our disadvantaged pupil impact aid and our student wellness and success funding, so this is all state money. Our disadvantaged, we get $344 for the year.
Solid.
And our wellness and success funds, we have $61,000. Again, this is the current allocation. So this comes through our foundation funding. So this is not federal money, it's state money. Comes through our foundation funding. And our foundation report, I get twice a month. And it goes up and down. Very small amounts based on enrollment, what's happening in the state, things like that. But it's fairly consistent, but you know, when I first did this, when I first looked at it, it was 60,400 something, and now it's at 61,300. So it can go up and down. This is the current allocation as of today.
Is that $344 per student?
No, that's $344 total.
Super. Okay.
Yes, $344 total. So for these funds, we use these to offset the cost of the wellness coaching. So Again, this doesn't cover the total, but it helps us implement it better. And I'm just required to report it, and it will be on the website as well. Okay. That's all I have for that part.
Okay, next up is our superintendent's report.
So we've been working on the phone, if you will, technology kind of surveys, and talking about our phone technology, smartphone policy since probably June. And Mike had put the first link out, I think August 2nd, for families to respond, and then he did another link, I think just this week, for families to continue to respond, and we'll be closing that down, but I thought it might be nice if Mike could give an update on what you found so far.
People unexpected. So yeah, the survey did go out again today to the community. I gave everybody until August 30th to get the survey done. Honestly, the send today worked really well. We've gotten almost 200 additional responses today, so now we're up to 750 responses. Quick notes, just looking at it, mostly focused on 712. So of the 712 families that filled it out, 71% are in favor of the pouches, with 20% of those folks wanting us to go even further and not allow them at lunch and before and after school.
But 20% of the 71?
Correct, yeah. So 51% love the pouches, another 20% want the pouches and also don't want them at lunch. The big reasons, in all honesty, from looking at the data, they feel like cell phones decrease face-to-face interaction, and that they're just a general distraction. I mean, again, I'm giving broad overviews on all the data, but those were kind of the big themes that came out there. I also looked at why people want to get a hold of their kids and how I get a hold of my kids, but I looked at how other people, it mostly, in all honesty, is schedule changes. So a big portion of those responses were something has changed in our schedule and I just want to make sure my student knows, or in the case of an emergency. Most of the people who put that also said if there was an emergency, they would call the building directly. From here, kind of next steps, we talked before, I still want to survey our students, and I still want to survey our staff. So we've gotten parent input, and I kind of know where everybody stands there. I want to talk to our kids, I want to talk to our staff, especially after we get the pouches rolled out. We're expecting to start school tomorrow with those in place. So I kind of want to hear from them on how it's working. And I really want to take kind of a deeper dive on the social media aspect. That didn't come out in the survey. So surprisingly, social media was mentioned, but it wasn't the overwhelming factor. The face-to-face stuff actually held a much stronger data point than social media. But it was in there, so I do want to kind of take a dive and see what that looks like. So I'll have surveys for staff probably in the next few weeks. Again, I want those pouches to be in place. I want to hear what they have to say, as well as the kids after they've kind of been in place. So that's where we stand. Again, if you're watching, you have till the 30th to fill that survey out. I'd love you to fill it out, because the more data we get, the better.
That's
a lot easier for us to make our decisions.
The more data, the better, but 44%,
I was excited.
great, like,
Honestly,
turn
well,
rate
it's
on that.
been, we got a big jump when I first sent it out, and
Yeah.
it's trickled off pretty steadily. You know, a few responses here and there, and then today was a huge spike. I mean, again, I sent the email today, so,
Yeah,
but that was great.
we typically look for like 20%, you know, for
Yeah,
survey
it's pretty-
research, so
I was excited
getting
when I
almost
got
half
it.
of
I
our
checked it,
parents is,
I checked it
Good.
probably 20 minutes before the meeting
Great work.
started, so.
Impressive. I think it speaks to the topic and how important it is for the district.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to dig through all of the answers, but I'm a nerd and I'm super excited to look through it. I'm not gonna lie.
We're excited for you.
I know how it worked in other districts with my students, so I'm interested to see as we get in, you know, kind of similar themes and what stands out. Great. Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Wow.
Okay, next up is public participation for agenda items. Ashley, do we have anybody signed up for an agenda item statement? Okay.
I did not receive anybody before the meeting, but let me check.
Okay.
I do. First is. Oh wait. Does he mention any agenda items?
So those will be at the end.
Yeah.
So we have another public participation section at the end for items not on the agenda. Okay, I move to approve, board recommendation 5.01, which is our OSBA annual business meeting recommendation. Do I have a second?
Also.
Any comments? Ashley?
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller? Yes. Dr. Sabo?
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennell?
Yes.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
appreciate that. Okay, I move to approve consent agenda items 6.02 through 6.03. Do I have a second? Any questions? Okay, Ashley, was it the roll on this?
Mrs. Miller? Yes. Dr. Sabo?
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennell?
Yes.
Mrs. White? Yes.
Jack, you will watch the superintendent recommendation.
Sure. Can start at 7.01, which is policy 5200, attendance. There were just some minor things that we're going back and clarifying. And it actually says approve the first reading of the revisions. We can actually just approve the revisions. So we'll need to clarify that when we make the motion, that we want to make the motion to approve the revisions to follow the attendance policy.
Okay, so moved to approve the revisions to the attendance policy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ashley?
Dr. Sabo?
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennell?
Yes.
Mrs. White? Yes. Mrs. Miller? Yes.
I know you just voted, but to tell you, there was some COVID language that had to be removed, so that was what we did. It wasn't anything major that would affect anything, right? Okay, so 7.02, this one would be, oh, this is the resolution that goes with the attendance. So if you read the Ohio Revised Code, we, in addition to passing an attendance policy, have to pass a resolution that just says that we will follow our attendance policy and follow the Ohio Revised Code, which is what's listed there with to notify motor vehicles and juvenile court if a student is absent without legitimate excuse from school for more than 60 consecutive hours in a month and 90 hours in a school year. When we went back and started looking through all of the policy and all of the documents, we couldn't find a resolution. So we just wanted to, since we're updating everything, go ahead and pass another resolution so that it's current and it's up to date.
Why do you have to update the registrar and motor vehicles?
It's just in the Ohio Revised Code. I don't know, you have to call your legislative head.
I do too. No, I don't care. Okay.
Okay, so moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennell?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller? Yes. Dr. Sabo?
Okay, if you saw that we're really cleaning up all of the policies and fixing things, we've been doing some housekeeping. So the next one that we're working on, if you read policies and policies from Neola, most of them said K-12. We're not a K-12 district, we're a preschool 12 district. So this resolution makes us a preschool 12 policy district. So that's basically what this resolution will have us do.
You have to go back and change every policy.
No, we're working on that.
And you do have to notice which policies don't include preschool.
Correct.
And say, if it doesn't apply to these, or in the policy say, this policy is excluded from that general statement that we're a preschool group.
And we're lumping all pre-kindergarten things, whether it's like the threes or, a lot of other places, like it's only pre-K or the year before you go to kindergarten.
Yeah, it's everything that we offer. And obviously the policy doesn't apply to that age group before that. This is the relevant policy. Okay, so moved. For a second.
Miller? Dr. Sabo?
Yeah.
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
For all those policy guideline people out there, there's more to come. This was just the start. In 7.04, just know that every year we're required to approve the times and routes for bus stops. So this would be that bus route approval.
Any questions about bus routes? Okay, so moved, do I have a second?
Second.
Ashley?
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Sabo?
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
The next would be some contracts to approve. As you can see, we have done a nice job of getting some of those positions filled that we didn't have filled at our last meeting in August. So thank you for all of those that did apply.
So moved, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ashley?
Mrs. Miller?
Yeah.
Dr. Sabo?
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
And the next one should look familiar. These are just for the additional hours for staff to complete trainings.
Okay, so moved, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ashley?
Dr. Sabo?
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
And 07 would be your classified personnel contracts. Again, we've had some great applicants for some of our, specifically aides has been one of the biggest classifications we've been hiring in. That's
Okay, so moved, do I have a second?
A second.
Ashley?
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Sabo?
Yes.
And then you have your additional hours for classified. 708.
Okay, so moved, do I have a second?
Second?
Ashley?
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Sabo?
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
And then the supplemental contracts, that's 7.09, co-curricular contracts.
So moved, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Sabo?
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
I am gonna just take a second on 710 because I'm super excited. This came out of our athletic committee. It's something that the coaches, the parents, the athletic directors have been working on for over a year, which is to bring strength and conditioning to our students, to help them to do better athletes and to support our coaches and their teams. And it takes a very specific certification to be able to train and to write plans for specific athletes for specific sports. So this is just to cover the training that would be like in the evenings, and so it's a very specific time frame. And our athletic director, Charlie Barch, did, someone needs it. Our athletic director, Charlie Barch, did a lot of work and worked through different contracts and looked at what different schools are using and how we could bring someone in to be able to work with our kids. Kind of like what we do with our trainer, if you will. It's just very, very particular in what this person does and how they will serve our students. So that's what you see in 710.
Great. Yeah, we've been hearing about this for years, some of the coaches, and that it's general training, but it's also sport specific, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so moved, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ashley?
Dr. Sabo?
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller? Yes.
They will be grateful. 711 is just the additional of the 6th class stipend. Just remember that any teacher that teaches a 6th class for the contract will be paying stipend too. So when we get those schedules finalized and everything, sometimes we have ones that we need to add.
So moved, do I have a second?
A second.
Ashley?
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Mrs. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller? Dr. Sabo?
Yes.
Okay, next up are our treasurer recommendations, Ashley, you want to please?
And 8.01 is equipment disposal. We have some items in the fitness room. We have some fitness equipment that needs to be disposed of. And at the middle school, yeah, a typewriter. It is broken, and we can't get parts to fix it anymore, so we need to get rid of that. So I'm recommending your approval.
Okay, so moved, do I have a second?
Second.
Ashley, Mr. Roll?
Mrs. Bendel?
Yes.
Mrs. Boyd?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller? Dr. Sabo?
Yes.
Dr. Schulfer?
Yes.
Mike, if you could load my reports for me. Awesome. Alright, next item is 8.02. This is the monthly financial reports. Thank you, Mike. For the month of July, as always, I'm just giving you the highlights here. The actual reports are attached for available review prior to meeting. Not too much detail, not a whole lot of exciting stuff for comparison or things like that, because we're only 1 month into the fiscal year. So July, this is just a picture of the general fund. Cash balance at the end of July was $20,346,970. This is the comparison month to month. We've only got 1 month really to look at here. These are kind of hard to look at, so I tried to show you an arrow of what it is we're talking about here. So this is going to look a little bit different than prior years. If you remember, all year last year I had to kind of pull out a caveat because we had advances that were larger than in the past, so it kind of skewed some of our comparisons. So what I did for this year is I went back to all the previous years, and for a revenue comparison and for expenditure comparisons, I just took the advances out. So most months are gonna look pretty much the same because we would only do advances out once a year. We would do advances in once a year. So if you're comparing to the prior years, you're gonna see everything's all the same, and then 1 month you're gonna come along and it's gonna look different, and that's because of the advances. So I pulled that out just to, 'cause really, when you're talking revenue and expenditure, an advance is it's a temporary transaction. So we move money from the general fund over to another fund just to cover something, and then it comes back. So it's not really an expenditure, it's just kind of moving money around. So it's kind of misleading when you're talking revenue, to say that an advance back into the general fund is revenue. It's not, it's just moving money back. And then the same on the expenditure side. So going forward, just to kind of eliminate the need for what we did last year, because I had to kind of point that out every single time on why the 1 month was different, I just pulled that, so. There it is. Expenditures, so this is the expenditure comparison month to month. Again, only have 1 month to really look at, and I pulled the advances out of here, so it's gonna look a little bit different. Cash, I don't have a line yet, because we only have 1 month's worth of numbers, so tried to kind of show you exactly what we're looking at here, a little bit higher than we were in July of last year. We do expect that to start going down as expenditures continue to go up, the revenue stays pretty flat. Self-insurance fund, we're at 2.2 million. That dip there, just as a reminder, was when we did the premium holiday. That's what we wanted to happen. We're right about where we want this to stay. So if this line, stays pretty even, then that's exactly what we want to happen.
Can you shed just a little light on that particular number being the sweet spot, just why that is?
We have stop loss insurance, so we pay our own claims. That's what self-insurance is. Pay our own claims, and then we still pay Medical Mutual to manage everything, to process the claims and all that kind of stuff. I just pay Medical Mutual once a week to cover the claims. We purchase stop loss insurance, which we have on a per employee or per life basis, and then an overall basis. So we have insurance if something catastrophic were to happen, but if everybody hit just up to that limit, we would need to have a balance in here to cover that. we're collecting pretty close, as you can see, we're collecting about what we're paying out in claims each month. So, we're good. But just in case it is an insurance fund, we need to have money in there in case of war. Financial summary report for July, again, not a ton of activity, because we're only 1 month in. All of our month-to-date amounts equal our year-to-date amounts, so not too much to talk about there. Again, ending fund balance for the general fund is the same if you're, tying these things back. This would agree to the previous few reports right on that first line. And then the rest of our funds are all listed there, down to the federal funds. We still have one with a negative balance because we do spend money out on those federals before we get it back. You'll start to see those all become negative as the year goes on. And we can get that money back. Where our money currently is held, most of it is held in Star, Ohio. That's liquid, it's an investment, we're earning about 5.4% on it. And then we have a little over 10 million in a managed account with Red Tree, held in US Bank, and that's not as liquid, but we do an analysis of how much we need to have in there, and clearly we earn more in those now than we do in Star, Ohio. That was not the case, a few years ago. So we kind of just held everything in Star, Ohio. We have been increasing the amount that we're holding in the Red Tree account, just because it's worth it at this point. That's it. Any questions on July's financial activity?
It helped, as just a comment, the initial update to see where that exactly happened in the overall update. So thank you.
And then on the actual report, the information that we discussed at the top of the meeting is in the report that's attached to the.
Excellent to the agenda. All in one tidy spot.
Okay, so moved, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Should we be ready?
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Dr. Sabo?
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper?
Yes.
Mrs. Bettle?
Yes. Okay, any other business? Okay, so this is public participation, and I think we have some people signed up for non-agenda items. I need to go back and read our language here before we start. The purpose of Board of Education meetings is for the board to conduct business. Board meetings are held in public but are not public forums. Community members who contacted the superintendent in advance of the meeting may be provided an opportunity to speak first pursuant to board policy 0169.01. The board agenda will have two public participation sections. The first public participation of the board agenda is specifically designated for the public to address the board with their comments related to the agenda items for that meeting. This portion of the meeting shall be limited to 30 minutes unless extended by a vote of the board. The second public participation section of the board's agenda is specifically designated for the public to address the board with their comments related to non-agenda items. This second opportunity for public comment shall be after the completion of all action items on the agenda. This portion of the meeting shall be limited to 15 minutes unless extended by a vote of the board. The board may permit individuals to attend meetings remotely through live broadcast. However, public participation will be limited to those who are in attendance at the meeting site only. The board is not responsible for any technology failures that prevent or disrupt any individual from attending remotely. Each participant will have 3 minutes to speak. No person may speak twice until all who desire to speak have the opportunity to do so. Remember, this is a formal and official meeting of the board, and what you say becomes part of the official meeting of the board. If your comment involves a problem with a student, employee, or board member, please do not address them by name. Keep in mind, we are meeting in a schoolhouse and possibly in the presence of students. Following your public comment, if you have specific questions, please email the superintendent at jennifer.konzarski@children'sschools.org.
Okay, first up is Amy Blue.
Hi, thank you. My name is Amy Ballou, and I'm beginning my 25th year at Gurney School as an intervention specialist. Over the past 24 years, under the direction of Rachel Jones, Gurney has fostered a culture of professionalism where the opinions of all stakeholders are valued. This is reflected in our belief statements, grade level TBT meetings, and interview committee debriefings. At Gurney, working as a team means your knowledge and ideas are respected. During the end of the year district convocation, when the new assistant principal for Gurney was announced, this left the Gurney staff unsettled because we felt we were blindsided. Unlike teacher interviews, we were not involved in the process. Those who are familiar with the day-to-day operations at Gurney were not asked to provide input on their future leader. I mention future leader because while it may be hard for all of us to acknowledge, Dr. Jones will be retiring before many of us at Gurney. But we had hoped Sarah Reed would continue to support and strengthen the culture at Gurney, but we understand she had to make a decision that was best for her future. As we look forward toward the future, we're concerned about not being a part of the decision-making process for who replaces Dr. Jones. We would like to ensure that our new leader promotes and develops the established culture in our building. Thank you.
Next is Jillian Langer.
Hi, my name is Jillian Langer, and this will be my 25th year teaching at Gurney. I currently teach second grade. I'm here to represent my Gurney colleagues and to request our involvement in the hiring process for future administrators. Historically at Gurney, teachers have provided input and participated in hiring committees for roles such as classroom teachers, aides, and intervention specialists. In other buildings, there has historically been participation from teachers in the hiring of principals. However, this past spring, Gurney staff only learned of the replacement of our assistant principal, Sarah Reed, at the end of the year, when the decision had already been made. There was no communication with the Gurney staff at all until the process was completed. Our concern is not with the newly appointed assistant principal, but with the handling of the process. Going forward, we ask for a transparent hiring process for building level administrators, in which we are included. The lack of communication about the situation has left the Gurney staff feeling uneasy and excluded. Thank you.
Next is Vanessa Matson.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Matson, and I have been teaching at Gurney for 27 years. I've taught kindergarten, and I'm now part of the preschool team. Gurney is a special place defined by its strong culture of camaraderie and success, where our team feels like family, always supporting one another. Over the past few years, Sarah Reed has worked closely with the preschool, helping us transition into the less than ideal trailer classrooms behind the building and continuing to offer her support. Her deep understanding of the preschool program and her consistent support will be greatly missed. The partnership between her and Dr. Jones created an amazing team. Knowing Sarah was expected to step into Dr. Jones's role when she retired gave us a sense of reassurance, as she had an incredible role model in Dr. Jones. The culture that Dr. Jones nurtured over her 24 years of leadership has been crucial to our success. It's concerning that, with Dr. Jones retiring, the district has decided to move Sarah Reed into a new administrative role outside of Gurney. This decision seems to disregard over 20 years of our shared history and culture, along with the insights we've gained through past successes and challenges. It feels like this move undermines the importance of culture and relationships, and it's unclear how this will benefit either the students or the staff.
Is Catherine Schneider.
I signed the wrong paper.
Oh, you were just saying. Okay, that's it.
Is it, I mean, do you mind if I talk a little bit about the process? Because I think if everyone's opinion it's worth at least having a conversation. Is that okay with you? Typically, we don't respond to public comment, but since you're here, I think it's worthwhile. So first, let me just say, and I don't want to get into depth on a lot of things, but the assistant principal process was a little different. And I'm sure that you know, being at Gurney for 24 years, when you have internal candidates, and you have outstanding internal candidates, like you did when you had Curtis Howell, when you had Sarah Reed, and in this case, Brittany Cece, a lot of that's just done in the leadership team because we want to hire the best from within. We want to grow, we want to give serious consideration to our CFEA, to our teachers, to grow them as administrators when they've done internships in the district, and that's what they want to do. That's in our strategic plan, that's what we want to do. And so that's why sometimes in those internal processes, they can go fast and that you're not necessarily involved in an assistant principal kind of hire. But when it comes to the principal hire, you can look to the other ones that have been hired in the district, and you can expect the same kind of process. And so, as you can see, we don't have anything official yet. And so you can't really start a process officially until we have that resignation for that retirement. And change is so hard and it is so scary. And to have someone for 24 years is just unbelievable. The fact that you have not had anyone change, I can't even imagine, and I talked to some of you about that, I can't even imagine what that feels like and how scared you must be to have a new administrator, because honestly, the true range of having a new principal is between 3 and 5 years. And so when people say this too will pass as teaching, they're not joking with administrators, right? But you haven't felt that, and you have something special. And our goal is to make sure that sustains. And so we've already been preparing and having conversations. And what you'll be seeing are things like roundtables. And you'll be talking to members of our leadership team and telling them what's important, what do you value. It will kind of look like maybe what you went through in a superintendent search. It will be that deep and that important to us to really get that frame, to get that job description of what Gurney needs. And that will have lots of input. That'll have everything from our admin team input, from your input, from parent input, from student input, and we put all that together. And then we go out and we do a big search. Not only do we search, we recruit. And we know who those outstanding people are out there. And we try to fit who matches up. And then you go through a whole interview process. And that interview process will start with screening, just like probably what you do when you do for teachers, because I know Gurney's process is strong for hiring teachers. I mean, just look beside you, look left and look right, right? So when we hire for those principal positions, you'll be seeing that the admin team will do the screenings. And so typically we go through all the resumes, we do the first rounds. We want to make sure that people are human and that they match and that the resumes line up to everything they say they're going to be before we put them in front of you. And then the principal things that we've done, and I'm just going to speak here to the high school. The first one we had more time, so we did it properly, which is where the candidates got to go through actual different interview cohorts. And what you do when you're assigned or you get to be part of those cohorts is you get to give us all the feedback. And you get to tell us how you feel, how you think, how it jives. And even depending on times of year, I've been able to bring in principals for half a day. It's like, are we really going to scare them? Can they really deal with the number of kids? Gurney is a big span of grades. It's not just, I mean, it has 3rd grade, right? We also have preschool. So it's going to take a special talent to be able to fill that. So if we can, and we can get everything rolling and get everything in place, and if Dr. Jones chooses to retire, right? I mean, that has to be part of this. Then we can start all of this and get this going and do some different things. But I don't want you to feel that just because of how assistant principals have been hired currently and in the past, that this is a principal process, because it's not. And I don't want you to think that because there is an external search when we do principal hires that internal candidates can't apply because they can't. And they can apply and they'll go through the same process. And if they cut it and they're great and that's who we get, then that's who they get. And look at Amanda Rossi. I mean, I'll just be frank, she had to go through the external process and she is a phenomenal person for this high school. I get more compliments and emails about her and her leadership here, and she went up against external candidates, but she went through the process. So the Board of Education, unfortunately, isn't responsible for this. They vote on my recommendation. I'm the one that's responsible for creating the process. I'm the one that's responsible for recommending the best principal to them. And I want you to know that we're working on it. And we know that the fear that you're facing and the unsettledness that you have, and we can start coming out and talking to you, but I also have to be respectful of the fact that nothing's official, right? We're just scared. And so we have to make sure that the pace and the timing is right too, because I'm just gonna say it, we have a legend to respect. And so we have to be respectful of that as well. So, sorry, I might have taken way too long, but I just wanna make sure that if they took the time to come the day before school starts,
I know.
that they know where we are and how this process will work.
Thank you. And with that, I want to wish everybody a very happy and exciting first day of school tomorrow, at least our first through 12th graders. Kindergarten's next week, right? Tuesday, I think. So good luck, and I hope you don't have to run to Office Max. And everybody have a great first day.
So we're gonna have some.
Absolutely, I need to take the, oh no, we're going to executive session. Yes.
Okay, we have an executive
I make
session.
a motion,
No, okay. Where do you want to go?
Don't have to get
I make a motion to enter into executive session in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 121. The sole purpose of consideration of the following matters. Consider one or more as applicable of the checkmark items with respect to public employee or official employment and compensation of a public employee or official. Do you have a second?
A second. Oh, we can, I was faster.
This is, yes, Dr. Salem? Yes. Dr. Schulberg?
Yes.
Fennel? Yes. Mrs. White?
Yes.
Not take action after, executive session, and the next meeting is February 18th at 7 p.m.
Yes, CFIS.
Intermediate school. And we'll have anything to student showcase.
We will, I'm excited.
You're a great back for student showcase.
Shoot,
Okay,
thank you.
So you can count that whenever you want.
Are we on?
No.
It's just fun.
You can count it anytime you want.
I mean, I think